Have you ever done time-lapse photography before? Used to be the case where you would go out with your camera, take a series of photos without moving the camera, bringing them back, putting them in the computer, and merging them into a movie, and it would basically condense time into a small little video. Since mobile phones have had some really impressive cameras installed into them, we can now do, through the technology that's in those phones, we can do some pretty impressive time-lapse photography and turn them into video really easily. In this video, what we're going to do is go through the native camera app and the functionality that's in there for time-lapse photography. It's pretty good. And we're also going to go through what I think is probably the best time-lapse app that exists for iPhone today in 2020. And that's the Moment app. Stick around, guys, we're going to get into it right after this. G'day guys, Shane Mostyn here. If you're into photography on your mobile device and you're a bit of a creator, subscribe to this channel. Every week you get a video on a Monday and another one on a Thursday, all to do with mobile photography. All right, let's get into this time-lapse tutorial right now. When it comes to mobile photography and time-lapse photography, you've really got two rules to follow here. One, you've got to allow yourself enough time. This is not a style of photography or videography that takes a couple of minutes. This can take hours to do. It can take hours to do. It doesn't have to, but it can. So allow yourself enough time. The second rule is you've got to keep that camera still. You've got to put it on a tripod or find some other way of keeping that camera still. There's no other way to do it. You have to do it. They're the two rules that you've got, and you have to play by them every single time that you do this. Other than that, that's really it. You need to find some sort of a subject that's going to move over a period of time. It's things like landscapes, sunsets, sunrises, those sorts of things that really make a really impressive time-lapse video. First, we've got to understand what is time-lapse photography. It's taking a series of photos over a period of time. So you might take one photo every second, or one photo every minute, or one photo every 10 minutes, and put them all together to make up a video. And basically what it does is it gives you that time lapse of the event that's happened, whether that be a sunrise, a sunset, traffic, bit of construction, work, whatever it is that's got movement in it, it can make a pretty cool time-lapse photo. So let's get into this native camera app on the iPhone. If you open up the camera and you scroll all the way to the left, you see the time-lapse photography title there. What Apple does with this is actually very clever. It's very simple, but it's very clever. You don't need to think about anything really besides locking in that autofocus and locking in the exposure, just like regular photography. What it does is it takes 2 frames every second and it does it really quickly. And it'll do that up till 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, it automatically ditches one of those images, one of those frames, so that the video at the end of it is not as long. There's not so many frames in it. In fact, when you go up to, say, an hour and 20 minutes, that video is taken from frames that's 1 frame now every 8 seconds, and it does it automatically. So that's kind of cool the way Apple does that. The main downside of the Apple or the iPhone time-lapse inbuilt on the native camera app is that you don't have much control over it. Because Apple does that dropping out frames automatically, you don't have much control over it. The only things that you really have control over with the time-lapse feature on the native camera app is 1, you can choose what lens you want to use, and 2, you can lock that exposure and focusing. That's it. Nothing else that you can do with that one. And to be honest, if that's all that you're really interested in, just to put your toe in the water with time-lapse photography, fill your boots. That's the best way to do it. Use the native camera app on your phone and you can do some pretty cool things. Now let's talk about the Moment app. The Moment app, for those of you who've seen the Moment app on other videos that I've done, you'd think that this bloke here, he gives Moment a hard time. And to be fair, in those videos I kind of did. But we need to keep in mind that with light painting and with astrophotography, star trails, all those sorts of things, the Moment app isn't made for that. So to be fair, when I've used it now for something that it's actually designed for, it's a bloody good app. So look, a couple of months ago, they did an update on the app and they've added time-lapse photography to that app. Now, you think, why would we use the Moment app, which is $10 by the way here in Australia, $9.99. Why would I spend $10 on something that's already in my phone anyway? Well, it does things better. Now, what do I mean by better? There's some pluses and minuses with the Moment app. That is, it doesn't do things automatically and you have to do it manually. That's a big negative. A big positive is that it doesn't do anything automatically and you've got to do it manually. It's a pretty cool thing. On the Moment app, the base controls of this are quite good. It's not a case of putting it on a tripod, pushing the button and going. It doesn't work like that. You've got to tell the app how many or how long between each frame that you take. So you could tell it to take a photo every second, every half second, every 10 seconds. And why would you want to do that? Well, say you've got traffic going through a roundabout and you want to have it heavy traffic, so do it quicker. Do it a shorter interval so that not too much is happening between the two frames. On the other end of that, say you've got a cloudy sky and you're trying to capture the clouds moving through the sky. They don't move that quickly, so you would leave a longer time between the frames that it takes, and it makes the video a little bit shorter and the clouds move quicker. So that's why you'd want to change it. Now, the native camera app, you can't do that. Moment app, you can do that. It's a pretty cool thing. The next thing that you can do with the Moment app is change the amount of frames. You can set it so it's set to infinity and it will just start recording when you hit the button and it'll stop recording when you hit the button again. Or you can set it up and say, I want this to go for approximately this long, and you can see there when you change the frames, on the right hand side you can see how long this series of photos are going to take. So you can set your camera up, go and do something else, come back in 35 minutes or an hour or however long, and your video will be there ready to go. You can also change manually on this app. You can change the white balance, you can change the exposure compensation, and you can even manually focus on things if that's what you really want to do for your time lapse. And whilst they're really good, the best thing about this app are the effects that you can add to the time-lapse photo. So it's got 3 different effects there. One is called bracketing. Bracketing is like HDR photography, as in something that's really overexposed, something that's really underexposed, and something in the middle, and you merge them all together and you get something that's a lot closer to what your eye sees naturally. But it doesn't happen in the app. You've got to export all those photos onto a computer and do it all manually. But that's something that the camera can capture for you anyway. It captures high resolution photos, so you can do that pretty well on the computer later. The second thing it can do is light trails, and light trails is similar to the light painting that we did, and I'll put a link up the top here to that video and you can see what I'm talking about there. But what it will do, it will capture a video of the time lapse, but it will also give you a section of light trails of, say, vehicles or headlights or tail lights or whatever you like. The best effect though is the motion blur. Motion blur in a time lapse, it really does take your time lapse photography up a notch. It's really quite cool. So I set this one up here on a roundabout, and I've set the motion blur to 0.5, and I've let this time-lapse video carry on with the cars going around the roundabout. It was a pretty quick one, but you can see there the motion blur of all those vehicles going through that roundabout. It's pretty bloody cool. I really like that. Another thing that you can do with this motion blur business is you can do a selfie, if you like, and walk around an area and your face will be reasonably in focus for the most part, and everything around you will be blurry. It's a pretty cool effect. It takes some time, but it's pretty interesting. If you're into doing high resolution time-lapse photography, this is probably the app that you want to get. The main reason for that is that you can export your videos in 4K. That's pretty cool. The iPhone native camera app, I think it's 1080p is what you can do the best at, but with the Moment app it's 4K, and well, look, you can't beat that. That's pretty impressive. That gives you the ability to zoom in and stuff like that in your editing later on the computer. And the way that you do that is once you export it. So once you've taken that time-lapse video, you'll see down the bottom there the photo. Go into the photos there and you'll see the different videos that you've done. And once you're ready to export it there, you can see all the different options that you've got there, which will give you a lot more flexibility in what you're going to export to. So that's time-lapse photography, guys. What do you reckon? Do you think the native camera app is better than the Moment app, or vice versa? Are you someone who likes to just plonk something on a tripod, hit the green for go button and off you go? Or do you want some more control over it? I'm really keen to see what you guys think. So look, that's it for today. Join me on Thursday for 3 Minute Thursdays, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.